And we've got R.J. Young with us right now, great college football analyst for Fox Sports, host of the R.J. Young Show on Fox as well. And R.J., it's great to have you with us. Do you think there's a problem with this system when it's essentially the same four teams in the playoff year in and year out?
Man, it feels like you've just been reading my work here of late because, hell yes, I feel like there's a problem when it's the same four teams. Now, I got to applaud the selection committee on being consistent and being consistently stubborn, but I like college football, right? I'm not here for brand name football. I'm not here for blue blood football. If you are the best college football team in the land, great. You should have every opportunity to prove that. I would also like to see undefeated teams get to play until they lose. Because right now we're dealing with three teams outside of those four teams playing in the college football playoff who could finish the season undefeated. And as the NCAA has 11 selectors of NCAA titles for FBS football, we could end up with as many as 4 claims to a national championship. Now, you and I would agree that the college football playoff champion probably beats those other teams, but in this format, we will never know. And now we are right back where we were 2 years ago with Central Florida going undefeated and laying claim to a national championship. That said, I do agree that these are the 4 best teams to get into that playoff.
You know, it's so funny because that was going to be my next question for you, RJ, is all right, so that's saying a lot about a lot of teams that may be deserving of something, but aren't these the top 4, or is there any question about any 4 of them? You know, I bring up Notre Dame, who feels like an easy out here. Are there any teams that you think should be replaced with somebody more deserving in the top 4 this season?
I'd start with 11-0 Coastal Carolina, precisely because they are 11-0, and they have more top 25 wins than Texas A&M, who I think people want to reach for, right? And they don't have the same quality top win that a Notre Dame has when they beat number 1 Clemson at home, but people tend to forget Clemson started a true freshman quarterback in his second start ever at that level, and that dude threw for 439 and 2 tutties. Then on the other side of the ball, Clemson was without 3 starters in their front 7. And we can see how big a difference that made in the ACC championship game when they held Notre Dame to just 3 points through 3 quarters, and then they gave up a touchdown in garbage time. I'm here for folks that want to say that Texas A&M should get into the playoff, but not in this format where you have to consider conference championships, and then you have to consider strength of schedule, and then you have to consider common opponents. And this is, again, where I think Coastal Carolina has an argument. They had a common opponent with Iowa State playing in the Fiesta Bowl. Iowa State lost to Louisiana. Coastal Carolina beat Louisiana. Coastal Carolina is undefeated. I don't agree with the system because I don't think that the system allows for a group of 5 teams to have any chance to make it into this playoff, let alone win a national championship.
I 100% agree with you. R.J. Young joining us right now on the Loose Cannons. Not just the playoff system, R.J., but the college football bowl selection process is completely out of whack. And maybe you could say, well, it's an aberration. It's 2020. You didn't have to be 500 to make a bowl game this year. But I got a problem with the system that rewards 2-8 South Carolina and doesn't provide an opportunity to 9-2 Army. Like, how can they rectify that?
You need a better agent, Army, because that's what you have in these other conferences. They have agents that act as conference commissioners that put together these contract deals. This is why we have North Carolina, Texas A&M in the Orange Bowl. That's a contracted bowl where those highest rated teams in those 2 conferences get to play each other in a non-college football playoff year. Army wanted to act outside of a conference. Same thing with Brigham Young. So they had to put together a schedule quite literally on the fly. If they don't get rewarded at the end of that, that is because they are not part of a league. And in a world where we have decided that there is strength in numbers and that being a part of a league or being a part of a union, if you will extend that metaphor to work, is beneficial to all, why would we reward you for acting a part? That said, I would love to see Army get an opportunity to play in a bowl game and get to 10 wins in this wild and stupid season. But I also am going to side with folks that already had those agreements in place that take care of their group.
National college football reporter, Fox College Football, also the host of the R.J. Young Show. R.J. Young joining us right now on the Loose Cannons. It won't be announced until January 5th, but who's winning the Heisman this year?
You know, it's a really good question because for the first time in back-to-back years, I would agree with any one of these guys winning the Heisman Trophy. As I see it, we're talking about 6 players. We're talking about Mac Jones, quarterback at Alabama, who might be the third best team on his, third best player on his team. Najee Harris, the running back. Devontae Smith, the wide receiver. And then we're talking about Kyle Trask, talking about Ian Book, Trevor Lawrence, right? So outside of that, it's usually a quarterback-driven award. Mac Jones is likely to get votes that I think should go to Devontae Smith or Najee Harris. But if those guys end up splitting the vote, you could actually see Trevor Lawrence just sliding in there because there's a bunch of people that would love to see him win it, the same way that Jalen Hurts ended up as the runner-up to Joe Burrow because there were a bunch of people that wanted to see him win it with Heisman votes. I believe the best player in college football is Devontae Smith. He affects the game in a dynamic way. Florida actually built its defense to stop him, and he still had 15 catches for 184 yards while his counterparts went off. I think it's going to go to Mac Jones. I think it should go to Devontae Smith.
Do you think that the playoff is expanded anytime soon?
Yes, 2025, 2026, when this current TV deal is up with ESPN. I don't think that they can hide behind this any longer. I've been clamoring for a 16-team playoff for the last 4 years, and it seems this year everybody has started to agree with me. And they don't really have another leg to stand on, because the other argument that I get is that every game matters in college football, which is a bold-faced lie. You and I don't care that Alabama plays Western Carolina. You and I don't care that Alabama plays the Citadel. We don't care that Georgia plays Mercer. We care that did Bama beat Georgia? Did LSU beat Auburn? Did Texas A&M beat either one of those schools? What did USC do this year? Right? What did Washington do this year? That they play these games out of conference is a big deal. But that they play weak teams out of conference only adds to my argument that they're totally watered down as it is.
There are going to be a ton of head coaching vacancies in the NFL, RJ. We got about 60 seconds here. Are there any college coaches that you could see making the jump? This guy's anxious, itching to get out of college football and make the leap to the NFL.
It's an interesting question, but right now I don't see it in the way that we saw it with perhaps Joe Brady last year. And if you did see one, it would probably be a coordinator that was called up to do something at a lesser job, perhaps a position coaching gig. But I just don't see a college football coach wanting to make that leap in 2021.
RJ, we appreciate your time and perspective on the college football playoff, and we thank you for doing it today.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.